Good afternoon, everyone. Is everyone having a good show? Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for being here. Please welcome Craig Wasserman. Together with his little brother, Mark, they are known as the law firm, the Pot Brothers at Law. They are California attorneys handling all aspects of cannabis business licensing as well as all areas of criminal defense. They also co-host the iHeartMedia podcast, Cannabis Talk 101. Most importantly, the brothers teach people how to engage peacefully with law enforcement by simply using 25 words known as the script and to shut the fuck up when cops ask questions. They have copyrighted and trademarked the script as well as trademarked Shut the Fuck Up for legal services. And due to their social media presence on all platforms with over 1 million followers and their educational videos, which have over 800 million views collectively, they have created a worldwide attorney referral network. Ladies and gentlemen, the Pot Brothers at Law.
Thank you. All right, are we mic'd up? We're on. Thank you very much. So let me ask one question. Does anyone here know, what do you do when the cops ask questions? Okay, great, thanks.
Everybody knows.
Oh, if it were only that easy. If it were only that easy. Thank you very much for joining us. And we try to make it a little fun, but this is very serious stuff that we talk about with regards to your constitutional and civil rights when engaging with law enforcement. And what we do here at our Etiquette of Engaging Law Enforcement seminar is go through everything from starting at your house, to getting into your car, to driving, to getting pulled over, to getting arrested, getting booked out, and then dealing with your attorney afterwards. So we like to teach people how to really decrease the risk of getting pulled over. So when you go to your car, you walk around it, you want to do a bunch of things. You want to check for your rear license plate, that the light that illuminates the rear license plate. That's going to get you pulled over if it's out. A cracked window will get you pulled over. Something hanging from your windshield will get you pulled over. Lights that don't work, make sure your lights work, especially if you're in the cannabis business. Even if you're licensed, we deal with this in California all the time, unfortunately. Our licensed clients get pulled over and get arrested. And they get pulled over because the blinker was out. Or, whatever reason, there's little things that cops look for to pull you over. We have to remember, they're trained to look for reasons to pull you over, and then they're trained to find reasons to get into your car. That's their goal, unfortunately, instead of just policing for safety. So when you are going to get in your car, do those things to reduce the risk of getting pulled over. Then when you get in your car, we suggest that you take your license out of your wallet, your registration out of your glove compartment, your insurance might be in the center console. Everybody keeps these documents in different places. So if you do that and you get pulled over, now suddenly you're having to reach everywhere, and God knows what's going to happen if you start doing that. So keep all your vital documents together, and those in the cannabis business space, you have a folder, you have something that shows you have your license, and everything is up to par. So you want to keep that handy, but we suggest keeping everything, your license, insurance, and registration, right on the visor. There's usually a clip there. Put it right there, so later when we get into it, your hands are from the steering wheel right to there, and you minimize any type of other movement that you're going to have to do. So you're in your car, you do all these things, you've looked around, you checked everything out, and now you're getting out and you're driving. And driving, you can only do so much. There's other crazy people out there who are speeding and driving drunk and doing all sorts of things. But all you can do is follow the rules of the road, and eventually you're going to get pulled over for something. And once you see those lights, everybody's going to have a different reaction. My butt gets kind of tight, and I'm like, oh shit, the lights are behind me.
Everybody's adrenaline just goes.
Boom, and you see those lights. And then if you're in the cannabis space, or maybe you have something, or you think, what's in my car, or you just don't like those sirens behind you, you need to remain calm, immediately pull over as soon as it's safe, and be aware that to listen for instructions. Sometimes they'll get on their megaphone and they'll tell you, keep going to the next exit, or whatever they say. Just listen to whatever they say and then pull over as soon as it's safe. Now, once you're pulled over, you should already have your documents in place where we told you, so you're not moving or reaching around or doing anything. Now, cops, when they get out of their car, they are looking in every corner and crack of that car as they're walking to it for their safety and for contraband. So if you have tinted windows, roll them all down. Without question, roll them all down. Because one of the things we as citizens can do is try to make the officer feel comfortable and safe. Cops go up to traffic stops and they get shot. It happens. They have a tough job. And we want them to know that, hey, we're not doing anything here. It's safe. My windows are rolled down. You can see inside. And that's going to make them feel comfortable so they can see what's going on. Then, if there's nothing else going on, you don't have anything in plain view, and if you're carrying anything, cannabis or otherwise, it should be in the trunk. I always say, if you're carrying something that you don't want somebody to know about or see, put it in the trunk, whatever it is, because the officers are going to have a harder time getting in the trunk. They're typically going to need to get a warrant or have other independent probable cause, which we'll talk about later. But now we have the cop walking up to your vehicle. We suggest keeping your hands on the steering wheel or even putting them right out of the window. And that, again, is for the officer to know where your hands are and that you're cognizant of that. That's going to bring their stress level down because you don't know what cop you're going to get. And a lot of people think we're anti-cop. We're not. We're anti-bad cop, right? We don't like cops who don't believe in the Constitution and who like to trample on people's rights. So that being said, there's a lot of great cops out there. They have a hard job. And we, at this point in time, it's incumbent upon us to help make their job a little easier by doing these little things to make them feel safe. Because we don't know what call they just came from, what mood they're in. A cop comes up on you, he's hot, and we can diffuse that. You can argue that we shouldn't have to do that, but this is the society we live in, and this is what we feel is the best way to handle these situations so you come out of it alive. And oftentimes we are told that when people do this, they get a warning or just a ticket. So now you deal with the cop. He comes up to you, and
This is where the script starts. Let's go through the script.
This is it. And again, this is where you're going to find out what kind of cop you have. So the cop comes up and he says, "What are you doing in my neighborhood here?"
Why'd you pull me over?
"You were speeding. I don't like you in my neighborhood. What are you doing here?"
I'm not discussing my day.
"I don't care about your day. It smells here. You got drugs in the car?"
Am I being detained or am I free to
"Oh,
go?
you think you know your rights, do you?" "Well, now you're being detained. Out of the car."
I get out of the car, roll up my window, lock my door, keys in pocket, and I tell the officer I invoke my fifth.
"So you think you know your rights. You can invoke your fifth all day long, but it's going to be worse if you don't tell me what I want to know. Just you had a couple drinks, you got a little pot on you. What's the deal?"
This is where I continue to shut the fuck up.
And that's it. And no matter what that cop says or does or threatens you, now here's something you have to remember. Cops can lie to you. And we've heard all sorts of lies. I've been doing criminal defense for 26 years, and I've had cops tell somebody, "Your grandmother just had a heart attack. We need to get you over to this and there." And they go and, they get busted. And they will say whatever they want. Now, the reverse, we can't lie to the cops. Well, we can, but if you do.
Well, let's break down the script. Let's start with, because the 25 words isn't just from thin air. Actually, every line that we say, something is embedded in case law or constitutional rights. And that's how it developed from just shut the fuck up to how do you talk to an officer? You don't want to be rude. You want to do everything we say politely, but you don't need to discuss your day with them. I mean, and that's the nicest way to say I'm not talking. And but starting with why did you pull me over? The reason for why did you pull me over is there's case law that says an officer needs to what, 8-10 minutes?
They have 8 to 9 minutes. It's really it's reasonable time, which has been said to be 8 to 9 minutes, to write you that traffic citation unless they find other independent probable cause to further detain you. What's an other independent probable cause? They see a roach in plain view. They see a pipe in plain view. They see any kind of what they can consider contraband.
Or you talk to them and say, yeah, I smell like weed, but I smoked 3 hours ago at home. I don't have anything on me.
That's enough right there to...
They'll take you in for a DUI, boom. Even though you're not impaired, we fight those in California and beat those all the time, but you got to go hire an attorney now because you opened your mouth. That's why this script. So,
and you want to establish the traffic stop. Why did you pull me over? So then, the cop may not tell you. Now let's address that. The cop doesn't tell you. I don't have to tell you, get the fuck out of the car. And we've all seen the videos where they smash the windows and rip people out of the car and all of this. 99% of those videos start with the driver or the passenger doing just what we just did. Why are you stopping me? Why are you doing this? I don't have to tell you. Yes, you do. And you know what? They do, but at the same time, all the cop has to do after he rips you out of the car is say in his report, thought I saw a weapon, cleared the car for my safety. And you go back to case law, Terry v. Ohio and Mims and all these different cases that the Supreme Court held, which basically in those instances wipe away our Fourth Amendment rights. But they can do it. And that's why we have seen all of these cops, with the exception of what just happened, get away with it. And when the Floyd case happened, we were saying, after analyzing it, he did what we talk about. He didn't use exactly our words, but he didn't resist. And why are you doing this to me? And he basically shut the fuck up. And his family got paid. In America, that's how it works. If somebody does something and they die, you sue. And if you can prove it was their fault, they get paid. We saw this cop finally get convicted after years and years of seeing cops use "I was afraid for my life" as a crutch. And so going forward, knowing your rights and knowing that the simple comply now, complain later.
Yeah. I mean, and we've been told numerous times from law enforcement all over the internet, FBI agents, detectives, law enforcement all over, that they appreciate what we do because it diffuses, nothing rises to the level of, you're not talking yourself into a problem. It's like, hey, you know your rights, and you might get that cop that doesn't care what you say. A lot of people say, if I use this, I'm gonna get my ass beat. No, you're probably gonna get your ass beat anyways because that cop's gonna do it no matter what you say. And with all the being mic'd up and video these days, you stick to what we say, your chances are gonna lower that any kind of bad altercation is gonna happen. So that's why why did you pull me over? Figure out that can be used later. Like, hey, he kept me there way longer than he should have. He had no reason, even though the officer's trying. So it doesn't mean, hey, it's 10 minutes, let me go. That's for us to use as a defense later down the road for any reason. And then I'm not discussing my day, it's just that simple. It's just, what do you say? You come out of a bar, you get pulled over, and the cop smells a little alcohol maybe, and how many drinks did you have? People say 1. Well, you're lying, and you're probably gonna go in anyways.
Well, then you admit that you drank and drove.
Right, or you say none, and you're lying. We don't want to get caught lying to law enforcement.
And you will, if the case comes out, you're gonna get caught lying.
So yeah, so that's why it's simple, nice and politely, I'm not discussing my day. And they might try to hammer you, and it's up to you how long you want to say, I'm not discussing my day.
You had a personal experience like that years ago.
That's right.
It was shit or get off the pot. We tell people to do this all the time,
and it's tough. It's tough. I was coming out of a bar, and why did I get pulled over? I'm like, I had no idea. Just pulled out, and my lights weren't on. I had auto lights in a new truck, and valet turned off my auto lights. So when I asked him why'd I get pulled over, he said, your lights were off. I'm like, oh, fucking valet, and I turned them back on. Then he asked me about how many drinks I had. And this guy seems to, at the time, he's 7 feet tall. He's got his flak jacket on, just towering over the window. And I'm like, shit, am I actually gonna do what we've taught people to do? Because it's not easy. It is not easy. You get nervous, the adrenaline's rushing, and you just, this is gonna get me in trouble more than if I just, whatever. So I finally said to him after he kept asking me how many drinks did I have, you can just tell me. I said, I'm not discussing my day. A couple times. And then at one point I just sucked it up and said, am I being detained or am I free to go? You're being detained, get out of the car. I'm like, oh fuck. So I roll up my window, get out, lock the car, put my keys in my pocket, walk to the sidewalk. And they wanted me to do the field sobriety test. Now remember, Google this in your state. In California, field sobriety tests are voluntary. Google it in your state. A lot of states are similar. Some states aren't, so you gotta Google that shit because there's no reason you politely decline. I politely declined those, and they were not happy. They even had the other cop come up to me in my face and start yelling at me about how they're just doing their job and reasons for me to do it. And I politely declined to do the field sobriety test. And they ultimately, again, at the end of this whole thing, I said, again, am I being detained or am I free to go? Get out of here, take your license and leave. They didn't even give me a ticket for not having my lights on. But I stood there the whole time and just, it's not easy. It's not an easy thing to do. But it will certainly lower your risk level of anything happening and potentially getting let go. Just because they're frustrated and they're gonna go, you know what, this gal knows her rights. And I didn't pull you over for being impaired. I didn't get pulled over for being impaired, my lights were out. If you're impaired, you should go to jail, period. I don't care what you're on. Good thing about weed is you're impaired, you're not gonna drive. Alcohol, you're gonna drive because you think you know better under alcohol. But if you're impaired, don't drive. And I wasn't impaired, even though I had a few drinks. And so that's basically the script.
So where do we went? Why did you pull me over? And then am I being detained or am I free to go? What's important about that is giving the cop the choice right then and there.
Well, he has to make a decision.
And putting him to task.
Yeah. Do I have enough to keep detaining them or do I have to let them go? Give them a ticket, let them go. And that's what that triggers right there. They got to make a decision. You've given them nothing. If you said one drink, you're getting out of the car, you're going in, they're going to run your blood. So that it just...
And that's where...
And it's tough.
And that's where that's where you're gonna know what kind of cop you got. Because when you get to that point, if you get the cop who is conscious of people's rights and is, just kind of is policing for safety, okay, this person doesn't seem intoxicated, they're okay, nothing's in the car. All right, you know what? You get on your way like my brother. Well, here's a ticket.
The DMs we get from law enforcement all over the country is, you do this, we literally have DMs left and right. You do this, we're gonna have a brief encounter. Because it's keeping the officer safe as well as yourself, not escalating anything, not arguing. My brother always said, there's only room for one ego at a traffic stop. And so much shit starts at a traffic stop these days, it's really sad.
Let it be a cop.
If you get that cop who's gonna do something to you anyways, doing what we say is gonna protect your right, liberties, defenses, and if there's a civil case, there's just gonna be nowhere for that officer to argue that you did anything to escalate the situation. Because even though they might not have the right, they might be doing something wrong, now's not the time. There was a sergeant or the captain back in North Carolina, I think.
I think it was.
She said, it was a lady captain, she said, comply now, complain later. Because when you start arguing and when you start not wanting, you have no right to cuff me. Sometimes they absolutely should not. You shouldn't be under arrest. You shouldn't be detained. But that's to argue later, unfortunately. And that'll help keep you safe as well.
Yeah, comply now, complain later.
And then invoke the fifth.
That is case law, where our great Supreme Court decided that you must speak in order to invoke your right to silence. And it's based on a case where somebody it was a murder case, and they were questioning a guy for 12 hours, and he said nothing. And then at about 12 hours in, they asked him about a murder weapon, and he gave a little look down.
I guess you can call it a guilty look.
And they use that against him.
Because anything you say or do can be
will
used against you.
Used against you. So the Supreme Court says in that case, you must explicitly state that you're invoking your Fifth Amendment right. And what better way to do that than say, I invoke the Fifth, which, as we now say, forget Miranda. Miranda rights. The cop didn't read me my rights, then this and that. They don't have to most of the time when you encounter them. Too much TV and film about the Miranda rights. All you need to know, you don't need to know the Miranda rights. You just need to know the Fifth Amendment, which is based on that Miranda case, is the right to shut the fuck up. That's the Fifth Amendment is the right to shut the fuck up. And you don't need to know anything more because the Miranda case says that they have to read you those rights when they're doing a custodial interrogation. When you're being pulled over at a traffic stop, it's investigatory in nature. It's not a custodial interrogation. That's when they have to read you your rights. So at that investigatory stage, they can ask whatever they want. And guess what? You can say whatever you want. Or you can shut the fuck up and say absolutely nothing. You wake up, you live and breathe with that right to shut the fuck up. You don't need a cop to read it to you like you're in kindergarten. So it's important to just remember that if you're engaged with a cop in one of these encounters. And once you're arrested, how many people in here have been arrested? So once you're arrested.
Cannabis crowd.
And you have the cuffs on you, and you're in the back of the car, some cops might get tricky and sneaky and, try to start making small talk conversation. And they do that too sometimes at the very beginning of the stop. Hey, nice day we're having, nice hat you got on, yada, da, da, da. And what they're trying to do in both those instances is just get you a little comfortable, small talk, get you going, and then before you know it, you're saying things that you don't even know could be incriminating. But this is how they are trained, and this is what they do. So when you are in the back of a car and you have those cuffs on and you get to the station, you shut the fuck up to everybody. Because they could have somebody in there, an undercover, or God knows who else. I've had many clients go into custody, get into a drunk tank and start talking about shit, and then the next thing you know, they're looking at more trouble. And so that shut the fuck up isn't just at that stop. It is the entire time until you get booked out, bailed out, or you get that first chance to talk to your attorney. Now, what we recommend, especially those in the cannabis space, is you have a bail bondsman ready because you need to have protocol in place. And, this bodes well for other people too who live their lives kind of crazy, I guess. And you might want to have Aunt Jane or Mommy have a bail bondsman's number handy because you make that 2 a.m. call. The importance of it is once you get your call, you can't bail yourself out. So you can't call the bail bondsman and start paying for things. You're in there. So you need to have a designated person who, okay, you're going to get that call. You call, they immediately call the bail bondsman because if you don't do that, in many places, you will then get transferred to county jail rather than the holding cell or a substation or a sheriff's station. Much easier to bail out from there, much quicker. You get transferred to a county jail. The process of getting booked in and booked out could take 48 to 72 hours. So there's protocol that you want to have in place when you get arrested. And again, going back to the cannabis businesses, I can't really speak to out here in Michigan or other states, but we see it in California all the time, licensed businesses and their employees getting busted, getting pulled over and busted.
And we need to add, too, that it's very, very, very important that you never consent to a search. You never, never consent to a search. I don't care if we have a classic case of a guy who was on probation, got pulled over, got searched, he consented to the search. He had nothing in his car. And this guy's on probation. They turn up a bullet that his friend dropped, who was taken to make it into a necklace. It was some old antique bullet. and he got probation violation because he had a bullet that he didn't even know about that was in his car.
Felon with ammunition is a felony.
So you just never consent.
And he was 2 weeks from getting off of probation.
That's right.
And just to further bring this one to the point about you don't know what's in your car, this bullet was there from 5 years before. The guy he bought the car from used to take his kid to the shooting range to shoot. And the kid collected the bullets, and one was there. And they tore the seats out. Just think about that. If you want to ever think about, I ain't got nothing in my car. Oh, yeah, go ahead, look. You'll be on the side of the road with all your shit out. They'll take your seats out, and they will leave you there. So, and once you consent, you cut us as your attorneys off at the knees to make any kind of argument that
They had no right to be in your car.
And
They
we
did
can-
not have probable cause.
then get a case dismissed because that search was illegal and everything gets thrown out. And that goes the same with anything. Anytime you talk, it's like, as a criminal defense attorney, I'm carrying 2 guns. I got 2 6-shooters. I'm an old gunslinger, and I got 12 bullets. Every time you talk, a bullet's coming out, and I got 1 less to defend you with. And so to help your attorney later, especially in the criminal defense arena, these 25 words and shutting the fuck up is the absolute best thing anyone can do. And we implore people to share it with your friends, your relatives, your neighbors, everybody. You should have gotten our cards. We tried to leave them on all the chairs. Our cards, on the back of them, have the script, those 25 words. And unlike the other business cards that you've gotten here all weekend and shoved them in the pit of hell in those bags and you're never going to see them again, our cards are important and go in the wallet behind your ID. Because when you get pulled over, tomorrow, in a week, in a year, in 5 years, you will get pulled over. You're going to pull that out, your ID, and you're going to say, oh, God, that crazy guy with the white hair and his brother were like, shut the fuck up. You're going to remember your rights and to shut the fuck up when cops ask questions. And as I said in the beginning, it's, we're having some fun and everything. And we certainly didn't set out in the beginning to try to have fun doing this. We had no idea when we went on social media telling people this, that it was going to do what it did. But we are very grateful that we can spread this message, especially in this day and age with everything going on. We feel it's very important, and doing this can save your life and save you from tickets and hassles that you would have otherwise gotten into because you said a few words. And the other thing we like to talk about also is your home and cops coming to your house. And quite simply, no warrant, no entry. And we've seen cops tell clients, because they'll call us.
We had one video like live.
And he was like, do you have a warrant? Yes, we do. Come out of the house. And they said they have a warrant. We were literally on the phone with this guy. Well, tell him to slide it under the door or show it to you. And he showed me, slide it under the door. No, come out. We have a warrant. I'm not coming out. Show me the warrant. And it went on for a few minutes. They were like, you come out or we're coming in. And they did the whole 9 yards with this guy. And he, no. And they finally went away. And so to that end, if cops say, we're coming in, we're breaking it down, step aside. And if they have a warrant, they give you the warrant, you step aside and you film everything they do. And that loops back to always film the police. When you're out there in your cars, we've done a couple of videos illustrating how we think you should set up your camera or your phone. Everyone's got the phone, you put it on a little mount and face it right towards your driver's side window. And there's Siri and there's other apps now, I think, too, where you just push a button and starts recording and all of this other stuff. And that it's very important to keep that record. And you don't want to have the phone in your hand when you're confronting the police. Because a lot of people think incorrectly that there are states that have made laws that you can't film the police. Not true at all, anywhere. What you can't do is impede their progress, impede their duties and what they're doing. So if you have the phone in your hand and they're going to arrest you, it's falling out of your hand. There's nothing you can do about it. One of our friends, a guy named Mr. Checkpoint, who I encourage you to follow if you don't, he does what he does because years ago he got hooked up for a DUI and it was complete bullshit. And he had his phone on and left it on his seat. And all it caught was the audio, enough to show that the cop lied. And we've had many cases like that, where the cops have audio and video because of the body cams and all that. Clients don't say a word. These cops go write reports, and they write things that are inconsistent with what's on the audio and video. And a lot of times, these cops forget that their mics are on. And we've had many cases where they're back at the station and they say shit.
The reason we're sitting here today is due to my son, who's very big in the culture. He's from a pretty young age. He was growing, cultivating for patients. He was a caregiver. And he had to grow at one point as a caregiver. And that was the first experience of him getting hit with a couple felonies. This is probably 15, 20 years ago. Yeah. And we literally, the cops, he did everything we said, which at the time was just shut the fuck up. This is pre all this IG and all this other stuff. And the police came up to him and they said, we're like 45 minutes after they came to his house where he actually got an attempted robbery. And a neighbor heard him screaming, we'll see the people flee. But when the cops get there, my kid comes out, they profile him. He's kind of short, got his boxers on and a t-shirt and a wife beater, which I think it's called athletic tee now.
Don't say that, wife beater. You're not PC.
And they sit him on the curb, and it's like his house just almost got robbed. And they point to his keys finally, go, are those your keys? He goes, yes, but I'm not consenting to a search. They pick up the keys, they go up to the door, they go, and this is after you can hear him on their mic going, we're gonna find a way, get Sergeant so-and-so over, he'll figure out a way to get in the house. They had a feeling,
gotta get in the house.
Why? Because they were asking my kid, why were you getting robbed? Like, really?
Yeah.
Really, that's the question? As opposed to chasing the guys who were running away? And so they picked up his keys and went, and this was 45 minutes later. Lo and behold, there's like 25 plans, and they made this thing out to be the bust of the century in the city. Made the newspaper, a whole 9 yards.
It was worth $300,000.
25 plans. And so unlike a lot of attorneys, when we take a case, even though this was for my son, you gotta make sure you get a good criminal defense attorney. Don't pay the cheapest, because when you pay the cheapest, most of the time, they're gonna do what's called bleed them and plead them. Take your money, go to court the first time, and plead you out to some whatever deal he thinks he can get you to take. That's a one-time appearance for that money. We take it seriously. We go into court, plead not guilty. If we have to push out criminal cases as long as possible. It's only good for you. And what was I going to say?
Unless you're sitting in jail, then you don't want to push it out.
Right. Then
you want to get out of jail. Right
so yeah, we get the video. We get the video and audio. And you hear all this stuff. And at the point in time where the cop says, are those your keys? That's when they said he gave consent. And sure enough, the audio at that exact time went, and literally, there was no audio for that long. That's when they picked up the keys. And later on, they tried to use, in the police report, exigent circumstances. That means emergency. When they pulled up to the house, they should have busted it in for a welfare check. They would have got away with that. But 45 minutes later, let's go see if something's happening in the house. There's no scream, no one's yelling. It was bullshit. So we actually this was great, because we had to do this twice with my kid. Once for growing and once later for a delivery service he had. And sure enough, when the cop gets there, the city brought in this special DA to do the prosecution or the defense of our motion to dismiss based on unreasonable search and seizure. And we show the DA the video and audio, brings the cop over, talks to him in the back corner. He never testified.
Yeah, the cop's not going to testify.
He didn't testify. He walked out, so we put on our case. There was no consent. There was no cop to testify otherwise. Case dismissed. Fast forward, I don't know how, 5 years,
5 years.
delivering, gets pulled over, same exact different city, same exact thing.
But this time.
Where the cop said he gave consent. After giving the cop our card, you all should have the card. Look on the back, it says, I do not consent to a search.
He handed the card to the cop through the window.
And you see this on the video. So we asked the officer, because she, in her report, put he consented.
Well, first of all, we did the same thing that we did before. We showed everything to the DA, and again,
motherfucker.
we go through the report where it says he consents, because they said this guy consented to a search. Now, I mean, shut the fuck up. It's what we do, and we've taught his kid forever, right? And they're telling us that he consented? Really? And so at that moment, again, 5 years later, 2 different police departments too. The audio goes,
Right before her search.
and we show the DA this, and we think the same thing's gonna happen. The cop's gonna see it and not gonna wanna testify.
Well, the DA initially said, you know,
They did. That's right.
they said we're gonna probably dismiss this or not oppose your motion.
And then we went to lunch.
And then we came back and that little fucker said, we're gonna go forward with it. Really, the cop's gonna lie? So we put her on the stand.
That was it. And then
Brother ate her lunch because she had, you know, we had her read this to the court.
it was great.
Hand this
Hold on.
to the, we gave it to her and said, is that the card you see in the video? She said, yeah. And then could you read the back of the card?
And she did this.
And-
I do not consent to a search. To any police officer or law enforcement personnel, I am invoking my Fifth Amendment Miranda rights and will only speak to you with my attorney present. Please allow me to contact my attorney. She reads that after I had her read in her report how she said he consented. And she said, well, he consented afterwards, after I got him out of the car. And I said, well, yeah, that's when it goes, eh. So I want to know what you said to my nephew, my brother's son, who's been taught all his life to shut the fuck up when cops ask questions. What did you say that just made him suddenly consent? I want to know. You're a genius. And she said, I don't, you know, you're confusing me. And I said, well, isn't that because you're a liar? Now, as an attorney, that was the first time in 25 that I've ever said that to a witness. And you don't do that. And the judge even glared at me. But, you know, it was my nephew, and I was hot, and I was
and
mad.
she testified after he got on the stand and said to the judge, when we asked him, did you consent? He said, I'd be disowned from my family. Yes. Under oath in open court.
Yes.
And ultimately, the judge found that she lied,
No
dismissed the
consent.
case. And the best part about this case, though, because the other case was years earlier under medical, it was such a gray
Caregiver.
area,
That was a
caregivers that
caregiver.
we couldn't go get his shit back. We got his equipment back on that first one, but everything was ruined. The delivery service, though, walked down. We got an order to return all of the evidence because he was properly running a medical collective at the time. And we walked out of the Newport Beach police station with a box that was full of edibles, concentrates,
Money.
phones, 3 phones,
Pendants.
pendants.
My special pendant.
So yeah, it can happen to anybody, and if you ever unfortunately are in a bind, you really got to do your research on attorneys. Just make sure they're not the ones who are going to sell you out, because there's a lot of those.
Or you can call us, as you heard in that intro, because of the social media platform we've created here. We have created a worldwide attorney referral network, and we are vetting out attorneys from everywhere. And there's a lot of bad attorneys out there that give attorneys a bad name. They don't call their clients back and all this and that. And we decided, since we had this platform and we were continuing to meet good, honest, ethical attorneys, that we were going to try to do something about that and help people wherever they are, whether it's Bosnia or, Bakersfield. We can potentially hook you up with an attorney wherever you are. And it doesn't even matter what the problem is. We've gotten all sorts of different things. So we're happy to share our platform like that.
Questions?
Yeah, I was going to get the questions. So yeah, this is a time we do a little Q&A. If anybody has any questions, turn your phone off. It's with the ring. Jesus Christ. Anybody, any questions? Or were we that? Oh, there we go. Okay.
So, I
No, just I'm not discussing my day. All that's going to do potentially is agitate the wrong officer who's going to be like, well, I'll do whatever I want. I'm here and you're,
And Border Patrol's a little different too. Yeah, and there's nothing you can do.
You just don't
Even
consent.
if it's improper, there's nothing you can really do that's going to help you, other than shut the fuck up.
That's the best.
Good. Yeah, no, it's tough, especially borders. I mean, we have legal cannabis businesses in California that when they get within 10 miles of the Mexican border, and there's shops within that range, they're getting stopped at a checkpoint and they're confiscating all their legal cannabis that they have manifests for, they have delivery schedules for, they have, it's really brutal, it's hard. So now they're doing, because you don't go through the Border Patrol on the way to these towns, on the way back. And they got kind of lucky because it was on the way back and there was a couple returns. So it wasn't a huge amount that they confiscated, but there's nothing they can do until we get our idiot government to. No, it depends where they have their border, the border checkpoint. It could be 5 miles, 10 miles. I can't remember exactly how far they can go in, but. Any other questions?
All right, yes, sir, in the back.
Not a question, but a comment. So I'm a criminal defense lawyer as well, as you gentlemen know. And in Michigan, they don't have to have the warrant in their possession. The warrant just has to be issued. So we can't force them to present it. I always thought that was wrong. If they have a search warrant, they ought to be able to show it to you.
Yeah.
How the hell do you know whether they're lying or not?
Yeah.
So it may be different in different states, but at least here in Michigan,
Gotcha.
the cops, somebody has to have the warrant in their possession, but not at the scene where they're doing the raid. So
Thank you for pointing that out.
And what
That
about your
does suck.
what about your field sobriety test? Do you know about that?
they're voluntary. You do not have to consent
Good.
to a field sobriety.
And never do it, ever, ever, ever.
Good.
No matter how sober you are.
Yes.
I was always told that you had to give up your license if you do deny a field sobriety test. Is that?
So in California, after you're arrested and you refuse a chemical test, the DMV revokes your license for a year. So, and that's going to vary
That's
from
after
state to
you're
state.
arrested in California. That's after. All the before arrest stuff, you don't have to do.
In
But
California.
after you're arrested, if you don't consent to that, when you sign for your license, you're saying, if I get detained and arrested for this, I will undergo one of these 3 tests. Matt, is that the same out here?
Yeah, it's true here as well. So you don't have to consent to the heel to toe, walk the line, walk and turn, the one leg stand. Those are field sobriety tests. You can decline those. When they ask you for blood, breath, or urine, that's where if you refuse unreasonably, your license gets suspended. So they've got to be asking you for a blood test or a breath test or urine. Now, a breath test, a PBT, a preliminary breath test, if you refuse that, that's just a civil infraction. It's a fine. So you can refuse the preliminary breath test, but when they're saying, we want you to blow into this breathalyzer at the station, the one on the side of the road is the preliminary breath test. You can refuse that. But when they haul you down to the station and they say either you blow in the breathalyzer or we're going to go to the judge and get a warrant for your blood, that's where you have to decide whether you're willing to risk your driver's license or not. If you take the test, you won't lose your license unless you're freaking drunk.
And don't drive.
Uber.
Right.
I think there was a question over here.
Another question? Yes. Say it again? No.
No, as long as you're not interfering with them.
Any other questions? They can't. They're making up these things that they're trying to do, but there's just no way to quantify the amount of nanograms in your blood
To
to
impairment.
impaired driving like they've done with alcohol, like in 0.08 in California and other states have their limits. That's years and years of testing, and that is a legal presumption that you're impaired. So they're just, we don't think it's ever going to happen. And the way they get you on these cannabis DUIs is when you say, I smoked an hour ago. I smoked 5 hours ago, and and you tell them, because that's something that later on a jury might hear, and 12 people in a box, oh, you smoked 2 hours ago? Jesus Christ, you can't drive. Reefer madness is alive and well and living in the White House. So we need to be careful. Any other questions? Yes.
So with one-party, two-party consent with recording, does that not apply to police, or is it different state by state?
One party, two-party consent. That's more, I believe, like a
Between-
civil matter between people.
So that doesn't apply with police.
No, because they're public servants. They're out there doing a public job. Any other questions? Yes. Thank you.
What I wanted to indicate also was about the nature is how the officers gain consent. You need to always be aware of whether or not is a command or if they're making a request. Such as, let me search your car. You need to ask, officer, are you telling me or are you asking me? Because they will then put in their report that you consented, when really they said, let me see it. That sounds like a command, especially coming from a uniformed officer. But really they asked. And that is an issue that I constantly battle in cases with regards to unlawful searches and seizures. They overcome that hurdle because you actually agree.
Right.
You need to be clear that they're actually demanding that it's a command versus, and it's okay in a non-combative way to ask the officer, are you telling me that I have to do this? If you're telling me I have to do this, I want to be clear that I don't agree and I'm not consenting. And if they're asking, officer, you asking me? Yeah, I'm asking, can I?
No.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's how they trick people into the consent, is exactly what she said. And that's why it's just, I do not consent. We got sent a video not that long ago of a guy, I do not consent, I do not consent, I do not consent. But if they're gonna do it, you're gonna get out of their way and you're gonna let them do it. But making sure it's clear that you do not consent, period. That doesn't mean they're not gonna still do it. They might not have the right to, but at that point in time, they're gonna do what they're gonna do. And you fight it later. And as long as you said, I do not consent, no matter what they say, because they're gonna, like she said, they're gonna lie to you. This is gonna go easier if you let me do it. We're gonna be here for 3 more hours unless you don't, if you play this game, then you know what? If you're gonna protect your own rights, you're gonna sit there for 3 hours, let them go get a warrant, which most likely won't happen. 9 times out of 10, that's not gonna happen. They're just gonna try to use that, and then what they'll do is hopefully let you go, because like it's called, what is it, the lock on a steering wheel to deter theft? The club. They know that when they walk by that car, the analogy is that car's got the club on it. Am I gonna spend the extra time trying to get that club off, or am I gonna go to the next 10 cars that don't have the club? And it's the same thing. Officer's gonna go, I don't know, either be on your way, here's your ticket, go to the next guy who's gonna blab to me. And that happens. We still get calls every day, and people even follow us on Instagram. I follow you guys, but that's why we have stickers now. You can put on your visor, has the script right there. Don't forget it, or you put those cards in your wallet behind your IDs now. And otherwise, when you get pulled over and that adrenaline starts to hit, it's tough. So if anything you remember from this, anything is just shut the fuck up.
That's the best.
Don't discuss your day with law enforcement.
They have a question over here? I thought I saw. Yes.
Yeah, if you get pulled over and getting out your car, I'm not saying how I can roll my window up and lock your door without having to turn the key ignition. That's too much movement around the car.
Well, if it's gonna be like that, then you just leave it. That would be the suggestion, is to just leave it. Because when you get pulled over, as I had said with the tinted windows, you want them all down, right? If you don't have tinted windows, rolling your window down enough to pass your license, insurance, and registration through is fine. So it's not all the way rolled down. But you do want to avoid doing any kind of movements. Any other questions? Okay, if there's no other questions, is anyone familiar with what we do on Fridays on our Instagram Live? We do something called the Script Challenge. Anybody familiar with that? Oh, yeah. Okay, well, raise some hands because we're going to pick somebody and we're going to do the script challenge right now. And one of our sponsors that sponsors the challenge every week, Top Tree, is giving away $100, which will be cash apped to the lucky winner. If you can get up here, we're going to be the cop, you're going to be you, and we're going to see if you know the script. So who have we got? Who wants to come up and try to win $100 and do the script? Who? All right, come on. Come on. Let's go.
Stand up. Yeah.
Yes.
Come on up.
Come on up. All right,
Hold on, we had one question, one more question.
Yes. Then we'll get somebody else. Yes. Okay. So this is how we do it. All right. And we do this live on our Instagram every Friday at noon Pacific Standard Time. And we pull people in. We have a bunch of other gifts and prizes along with the $100. So I'm the cop. I pull you over. I say, what is that smell in your car?
Why did you pull me over?
Well, you were speeding. But now I want to know what that smell is.
Am I being detained?
Oh, we have to cut you off. You didn't make it.
That's all right. This is from.
Why did you pull me over?
Now,
Not discussing my day.
in real life, it's okay if you do that. But when we do this show and this game, it's important that we stick to those 25 words because if you know it and we reinforce it, you're going to be able to do it. Thank you for playing. We do have a consolation prize for you. We have a nice shirt for you that Amanda will get. I think you wanted to come next, didn't you? All right. You got $100 still on the line. And then after this, we got one last thing for you. Okay, what's your name?
Just call me AB.
AB, where are you from?
I'm from Puerto Rico, but I moved up here a year ago.
Okay, very good. I'm the cop. I pull you over. I say, hey, what are you doing here in my neighborhood? You shouldn't be here.
How can I help you today, sir?
Wrong,
No,
you lose.
no.
Okay, anybody else want to try? Annie, come on. Come on up. Come on up. It's not that hard, not that easy, is it? And I'm not even the cop. But that's why we do this, because if you can do this, you'll be able to do it. All right, what's your name? Sonaria, where are you from?
Detroit.
Detroit, right here. All right, are you ready for the script challenge?
Yes.
Okay. Cop, I pull you over. I say, hey, you're going awfully fast. Where are you heading in such a hurry?
Why did you pull me over, officer?
You were speeding. Where are you going?
Do I need to discuss my day with you?
It's close enough.
No, I'm sorry because I'm the officer. Yes, you need to discuss your day. I'm sorry, you lose. All right, who's next? Who's next? I'm sorry. Okay, there we go. The young lady coming up.
And the reason that actually wasn't good enough, too, just a little education is, what if the cop turns around and says, yes, you need to discuss your day with me?
That's what I said.
So
All
you don't want
right.
to ask him.
What is your name?
I got this.
Oh, drug war veteran.
All right.
All right, what's your name?
Jenny.
Jenny, where are you from?
Kentucky.
Kentucky. All right. Are you ready for the script challenge?
I was born ready.
There we go. I feel good about this one. All right, I'm the cop. I pull you over. Say, hey, man, those are nice glasses. Where'd you get those?
Why are you pulling me over?
Didn't even fall for the trick. Good. You were speeding. Now, you got drugs in the car?
I'm not discussing my day.
I don't care about your day. What do you think you know your rights? You want to tell me where the drugs are? It's going to go really bad.
Am I being detained? Am I free to go?
You're being detained. Now, tell me where the drugs are.
Invoking my Fifth Amendment right to shut the fuck up.
There you go. All right. Congratulations.
I'm in my heartbeat with you.
All right.
With you.
We will get your Cash App information, and we're going to get that $100 to you.
Thank you.
Thank
hang
you
out right
very
afterwards.
much.
I will.
So
Thank
that's
you.
the script challenge.
do the tip?
We do it every Friday. And
Should we do the tip?
you want to do
of the
that
day?
first? Okay. So we also do our daily script review, and this is what we put out there every day on social media. Big brother, what do you say when
Well,
the
here,
cops?
let's do a tip of the day. Film it.
Oh. My apologies. Okay. We're going to do this with you all. We're going to do the script. And when we give you the cue, I think you'll know what to say. All right, so if everybody over here can, okay, it's okay. We'll figure it out. All right, ready, big brother?
Yep. Ready?
Go. All right, we are here at Cannacon Detroit 2021 doing the script. What do you say when the cop first pulls you over?
Why did you pull me over?
And when they start asking questions,
I'm not discussing my
they
day.
keep asking questions.
Am I being detained or am I free to go?
And if detained, what do you say?
I invoke the fifth.
Cannacon 2021 Detroit, what do you do? Shut the fuck up! All right,
That's your
that's
tip of
it.
the fucking day from Cannacon Detroit.
Yes. All right, now one last thing. Thank you. One last thing before we go. We have created something that we hope helps the kids learn this stuff. My brother wrote this great poem, and he makes me do it. So this is called Am I Being Detained or Am I Free to Go? It's a slam poem by the Pop Brothers at Law. Am I being detained or am I free to go? This is what to say. My lawyer tells me so. The cops are out there doing a job. Sometimes they must contain a mob, a thankless job that saves many lives. At their home are worried children, husbands, and wives. But does that give them the right to stomp on my rights? So we are here for you, the cannabis community, to fight, to let you know it's okay to just shut the fuck up when cops ask questions. You start with, I'm not discussing my day, end with, I invoke the fifth. These ain't suggestions. These are words to live by, to memorize. See, it's not about the size of that cop's gun, because they want you to run. So they could pull that macho gun and shoot you for fleeing the scene. Some cops are just plain mean. We must shut it off, shut it down, those feelings of anger that instantly come around when that cop has to show his power and his might without cause, without reason, and we know they're not right. We must remain calm. Keep the devil sleeping on the left shoulder. We must be cold, even colder. Ice must flow through your veins to shut that heat. The blood that rushed your brain straight from your feet when that cop disrespected you, 'cause you wouldn't tell him what that smell was. And he accuses you of a pot DUI because he absolutely knows that you're buzzed. But see, they can't tell and they don't know. Only if you tell them so. Oh, officer, I smoked a joint a few hours ago. Officer, here's my medical rec. Officer, I'm a marijuana patient. We live in America. Prohibition still exists. That cop's going to do whatever he's going to do. 50-50, he arrests you. Give us a chance to represent you with a defense that's blazing. Let us show you in court we're amazing. But we could only do that if you listen to our tips. Now let me see you move your lips. You know the drill. When the cops ask questions, we say, I'm not discussing my day. Am I being detained or am I free to go? I invoke the fifth, and then you... Shut the fuck up. It's all about what you say and what you do. We have given you the script. We're telling you what to say. We're telling you what to do. We've put your hands up in protection mode. But should you take a shot to the jaw, we will be here fighting for the cannabis community because we are the Pop Brothers at Law.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much.